Hello, and welcome to Elder Dragon, and to our very first Dragon Lair podcast. Today, we're going to talk about some of the best commanders for new players, as well as talking about some of our pet cards, some of the cards that we always put in our decks, even though we maybe shouldn't, as well as some memorable cards, like kind of maybe the first mythic we pulled, do we still play it, and things like that. And then lastly, we're going to do a little challenge. We're going to pick a third-party IP character, something from outside of the world of Magic, and we're going to design a commander card for them live on the podcast. So that should be fun. Before we get into it, if you want to see more podcasts like these, if you want to watch some EDH games in person, online, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you want to join our community, we've recently launched our Patreon, so you can check the description below for more links to that. If you join there, you get access to our Discord where you can chat with us, play some games, and do all that fun stuff. But with that out of the way, I'll introduce the guys. You might recognize these guys from some of the games on YouTube, but you'll see them in the Discord as well if you're in there. So we have Ed, and we have James, and we have Maxwell. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
Good hey. Yeah, really excited.
Well, thanks, Kiefer.
Right early on this Saturday morning.
Yep, it's very early in the morning. So, first thing we're going to talk about is the best cards that we think, or the best commanders, I guess, that we consider would be the best for new players. And I'm going to shoot it down to Maxwell first.
So my commander for new players is also a commander for older players too. Maybe some, not maybe like mega old players, but you know, when you think about the explosion of EDH, Dominaria was quite a while ago. And it also sees play in CDH as well. It's Marwyn the Nurturer. So Marwyn the Nurturer is a 1/1 elf druid for 2 generic and 1 green that reads, whenever an elf enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Marwyn, and you can tap Marwyn to create an amount of green mana equal to Marwyn's power. Now, I chose this as an easy one for beginners because what is more easy than playing a load of elves and then turning Marwyn sideways to play an attacking win con? What do you guys think?
I mean...
You go.
No, you go for it, James. We agreed we weren't going to shout over each other. So.
I know, we immediately... That's the first thing we did.
First thing.
So, I think it's actually a really good choice. It's monocolor as well, which makes it much cheaper on the land base and the mana base. You don't get all the expensive dual lands. It also is quite good because it limits down the number of choices that you actually have, which is actually quite good for a new player in my view, because it means that you're just focused on green cards and obviously colourless. As well as look for type line elf, jam it in deck, and it's probably going to be okay. So yeah, I think it's a really good pick for new players.
I agree with James. I also think that the slightly Timmy nature of big mana, big spell kind of feeds into some of the fantasy around the game I've seen. So I personally have I've met a couple of new players that were super into big Hydra spells, and I think Marwyn kind of hits a similar niche where you're building up into this big crescendo of a 7 mana 7/7, which when you're just starting out, you just see that as like, whoa, how could you even beat a 7/7? And then as you move through the game a little bit, you become a little bit more experienced. You realize, like, wow, there's so many ways you could beat a 7/7. But right at the start, that's not necessarily how you see it. I mean, I know Kiefer's very experienced, and he still goes like, wow, a 7 mana 7/7. But
especially if it's got hexproof.
Oh my god, and trample, fucking hell. Oh,
just wait till you see some 8/8s.
For 8, an 8/8 for 8. Oh my god!
But yeah, I mean, I think Marwyn's a good choice. I think, like you said, I think he makes it really easy, really simple for someone just starting out to build. The only thing I would say that maybe would be something to go against Marwyn, I guess, is that it is monocolored. I feel like it would limit somebody to kind of opposite of what James was saying. Like, it limits you to only playing green, right? Not, I mean, green's pretty, like, one of the best colors, but it does I think limit you to, like, exploring what other things do. And I think I suppose one thing that like my choice, I guess, for best commander, one of the main reasons I chose it is it's got card draw stapled on the commander. And I think when I was playing him, I think my first deck was a Geared, the Naya populate dude, and it was a super fun deck. But I had to learn how to draw cards with it, and most of the time when I started out, I was always finding myself, I did a lot of cool things, but then I'd be like empty-handed, and I'd be like, "Is that it? Is that all I do?"
That would have been my comment around my only criticism around Marwyn as a starter, because it's certainly something that when I started playing Marwyn, and I do have a Marwyn deck that I enjoy very much, card draw was something that I found I struggled with a bit, even in a relatively high power list. You know, because you're kind of encouraged to slightly gas yourself out unless you run a lot of untapped spells or untapped features. You're kind of encouraged to build up to like a 7 and 8 power Marwyn, maybe even a bit further, and that takes a lot of gas out of your hand. And then if you don't have a way to refill it, and you get board wiped, which is almost an inevitability at higher power levels, board wiped or spot removal at higher power levels, your game plan's just gone. I mean, you've got like 2 cards in hand. You maybe have 3 forests and just mana dorks, and then once the mana dorks are gone, you're like, wow, I'm really like out of this game now for about 6 turns. So whilst it's not unrecoverable, because it's kind of resilient, like green's got a lot of recursion, so you can pull stuff out the graveyard, you can kind of get going again. You're not going to be doing much, and I think as a new player, what you want to be doing is doing things all the time, and card draw really leans into that element of the game for me as well. And that was why the commander I chose also has card draw stapled to it. It's kind of like enabler and payoff stapled to each other. I think that's a really good little loop for a new player, although it can lead to I think it can lead to a sort of addiction where
yeah, we all know about this.
Like, listen, right? It's a serious point, because you don't have those like downsides, and downsides are an important part of Magic the Gathering as well. And deck building is about leaning into the strengths and trying to cover a little bit for the weaknesses to build that resilience. Yeah. Certainly at higher power levels, anyway. And if you start off with enabler stapled to payoff, when you go to something that's maybe a little bit more complex with the combo lines and doesn't have those same strengths in the command zone, you might be sat there thinking like, this is rubbish. Why did I ever stop playing XYZ? Well, I mean, my commander is AC Tyrant of the Jaya straight. So you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you can draw a card. So for me, that's a good commander for a new player, because it gives you a strategy straight off, just like Marwyn does. Marwyn is elves, AC is landfall, straight away. Landfall's pretty easy. It's a pretty well-established, easy kind of tribe, if you like, as a strategy. It's got a lot of support, so you're not going to struggle for cards. It's a Simic. It's in blue-green, which are the 2 best colors. Fight me. So you get to learn about the green ramp. You get to learn about blue card draw. You learn about counter spells, which are the greatest spells in Magic the Gathering. It has a few weaknesses, mainly around board wipes, but arguably one of the best board wipes in the whole format is Cyclonic Rift, which is in blue. So it comes in a precon, so you can buy a deck that is AC. It's not a very good deck necessarily, but it is at least a deck, and it's a place to start. And then you can upgrade it. And for something like that, really, the sky is the limit. It can't go CADH because it's a bit too expensive at 6 mana, but really you can push that quite high, and I have pushed it quite high. But I did find that when I moved on to other commanders, I was dissatisfied with particularly the card draw element of other commanders, and I struggled a bit with that.
Yeah,
I think that's the. Oh, sorry, Keith, you go.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's interesting because you talk about AC being pre-con, which is good. You buy the deck and it's already built for you, and you just play it and you figure it out. But I think where Max's choice with Marwyn is good is that it actually, because Marwyn is just a creature, it's a rare from Dominaria, from the main set, right? So I think Marwyn is a good choice for a new player who is actually looking to build a deck instead of just going into a shop and picking up a deck from the shelf.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I found like with buying pre-constructed products, is they're amazing for new players. Like you think of any of the most recent Commander precons, they've all been strategies that work for new players. You think about the more budget ones like Lathril, AC. Remind me of the Boros equipment
Osgir
commander.
Wyleth.
Osgir was artifacts.
Wyleth, which is interestingly my choice for new commander. So we'll get to that in a minute.
They're all kind of like they do what the deck says. Like AC comes with loads of cards that when you play lands, things happen, or you can get more lands out, and those are really good for new players to pick up, get to understand an archetype, and then have something to build upon. But then I feel like when you've done that, the greatest thrill that I have with EDH is taking a commander that might not be like the best commander in the world. Like when I was first started playing Marwyn, she'd just come out and everyone was like, it's just Marwyn. And now she's a flipping CDH commander. Like people have broken her. I've done that, people have I don't know, a deck Keith have definitely played against it, but I run a Catilda deck, which is green-white humans. And that started off as a green-white human deck. But then I kind of played around with it and it's just become a Cryptolith Right tribal deck. Just use humans as mana dorks and play some like stupidly big spells. But the enjoyment, I think, once you've kind of got a grasp of the game, if you played other formats, got a grasp of the format, or you've come over to because it's a social game, isn't it? We play with 4 people. But once you've got that and you understand kind of how it works, part of the joy of EDH is going through your binders, going through your bulk boxes, and finding cards that work. And then you can take it to the next level, become a Scryfall savant, learn all of the kind of like advanced search terms, and then build something that's like well powerful because you know exactly what to look for. But it's good that like with like Wyleth, AC, they do what they say on the card and they do it really well.
I'd like to hear about Wyleth.
Yeah, tell us about your
why. So it's kind of been spoiled. So it's the second best precon commander from the Commander Legends precons. Wyleth Soul of Steel. Wyleth is a 1 and red white, so 1 and Boros for a human warrior, 2/2 trample. And whenever Wyleth Soul of Steel attacks, draw a card for each aura and equipment attached to it. So the reason I like this deck, or this commander, a couple of reasons. Firstly, comes in a precon super cheap because it is the second best of the 2 Commander Legends precon decks. You can still pick it up like it happens to be AC. It happens to be AC. But you can pick, so as a consequence, you can pick it up for like 15-16 quid for a deck of 100 cards, right? Which is an incredibly cheap entry point into the format. Second thing is it's Voltron-y and it's equipment-y, so you've got less stuff as a new player on the battlefield that you need to focus on. And one of the big things I find that new players struggle with is there's 3 other battlefields and board game states that you've got to keep track of as well as your own. So anything you can do to kind of simplify that and reduce it just makes it easier to understand it, not miss triggers, and actually genuinely have a bit more fun rather than panicking about what's going on with like 1,000 cards that are doing effects and interactions that you've never heard of before. Actually, in your own play space, you're slamming equipment onto one commander, you're attacking with it, you're drawing a bunch of cards, you're doing anything that it says on the equipment to do as well, and that's it. I would say on the downside, obviously it's Voltron-y, it can be a bit weak. You're not going to take Wyleth and run it in against a load of experienced players because you will probably be destroyed, although actually I've lost a couple of games against a Wyleth precon deck with a much better deck. Yeah. But I just think it gives a new player something to focus on and gives a load of cheap staple cards in a couple of colours that you can then take out using different decks. You can easily upgrade it with just some better equipment if you just want to chuck a couple of quid at it, and go from there. So yeah, I think it's a decent start for a new player to the format.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice. I don't think a new player should be too concerned about the power level necessarily of what the deck is. I think the main thing that I think you should be focused on more is it something that sounds fun for you to do. Whether or not you show up to a table and smash face with it is kind of irrelevant. You might get the lucky couple of games where maybe you do go, you pop off basically and you do crazy things. But I think Wyleth is good, kind of for the same reasons that my commander is good, but because it kind of tells you on the card what you're supposed to be doing, and here's the reward for doing it, and it kind of helps you. It kind of pushes you in the direction to find the synergies and to kind of play the deck the way it wants to be played. And I think that helps you learn it. It isn't Boros though, so potentially lower.
Boros is the best colours. It's just you need to be
Civic's the best colour, but
super skilled to play it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Civic's the best colour, and if you disagree with me, I'll just counterspell your opinion.
Red elemental blast back at you.
I'm just going to rewind that. Don't worry, I've got loads of these.
That's right, I'll monetize it.
Listen, I've got way more counterspells than you do. I've got way more counterspells than you do time. So, we can do this all night. And then I'm just going to draw some cards and play Thassa's Oracle because I'm a degenerate. I think Wyleth is a good commander. I've never actually seen a Wyleth deck, but I've seen other kind of Boros, Loreholdy type Voltron decks, and I agree Voltron has its weaknesses. It's a single creep, kind of all eggs in just the one shitty basket. But ultimately, as a new player, I don't think that's really a concern, because part of it is going to be learning those lessons and learning about how to protect yourself, because Voltron is high risk, high reward, so those lessons are magnified, but they apply to everything. I mean, protect your key pieces, and then you have to, at some point, you have to start making decisions about what to let go and what to protect. Because you'll never have enough protection to answer 3 hands worth of removals, so you've got to really pick and choose your battles. And I've seen Voltron Aura's decks do absolutely disgusting, wild things very fast. I recently played against a Light Paws Voltron deck that went nuts.
Yes,
and it went nuts kind of like soon. Out of nowhere. We shall see that soon. It went nuts out of nowhere. It was shut down completely, and then it came back and won the game 2 turn cycles. It was absolutely insane.
Have you just spoiled a video there?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, because I'm a Simic player, and I spoil everything.
Yeah. If I don't win, I'm going to spoil it.
I spoil everything.
If I'm not having fun, you're not having fun.
Yeah, exactly. But listen, Kiefer, you have mentioned your commander at least 3 times. You've been teasing.
Who the
fuck is it?
My commander is Sithis Harvest Hand, which is a Selesnya commander, so a green and white, and that's all she costs, just 1 green, 1 white mana. She is a legendary enchantment creature. She's a 1/2, but the power or toughness isn't really the main thing here. Her ability, what she does is whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain a life and you draw a card. So the reason why I chose this is it's so stupidly simple. It tells you exactly on the card what you should be doing, and even goes so far as to make your commander the thing that you're supposed to be doing. It's like your commander is an enchantment, you play enchantments, you draw cards, and bonus, you also gain life. So this isn't a pre-con commander. This is from Modern Horizons 2, but it's still super cheap. It's like £2 maybe, or something like that. But I think this is just a really easy commander to build, because there's so many enchantments. Enchantments are like such a common card type in Magic that if you have any kind of draft chaff or anything like that, you're bound to have a couple of enchantments lying around. And yeah, Sithis is just so easy to build, I think, because it just tells you exactly what you want to do, and you just get benefits from doing that thing. You play Sithis is on the battlefield, you play any enchantment, you gain a life and draw a card. And you just draw your card, it's another enchantment. I guess I'll play that again. Oh, well, look, I gained another life and I draw another card. So it keeps fueling you, rewards you for doing the thing that the deck wants it to do. So much to the point where Sithis has been kind of she's basically who's that, Tuvasa? She's like Tuvasa but better, which is not wrong. She is. I think WotC have kind of spoken about technically making mistakes by putting card draw on commanders for doing something that's what they're supposed to do.
Enabler staple to payoff. They don't want to do that.
Yeah. But I think for someone starting out, it's an easy way for them to understand a synergy and understand having cards in hand is the most important thing when you play a game. And yeah, I just think it's an easy camera.
I think that's a really important point though about understanding synergy, because all 4 of the commanders we've picked are synergies in and of themselves. So they present to you this idea of do a thing, get a thing, which is kind of the whole game of Magic, is all about building those synergies together. So having that given to you as a commander really brings that to the forefront of your mind. You think, this is what I should be doing. I should be trying to get payoffs. It's not like a game of individual pieces. It's about building something together to create a winning board state. I mean, like Wyleth is about punching things with big things, and then you get the reward as the card draw. And so even that is a synergy. It's perhaps less degenerate than ours, Kiefer, because ours are effectively the same thing, except my commander costs 6 mana, which is so unfair. But I think that's a really important point about synergies.
My only sort of negative on Sithis is not about the commander, who's amazing. It's about actually putting the deck together so it can win and not just draw all the cards and gain some life.
Yeah.
And it's about then actually understanding what the payoffs are for that. Because if you're you can cycle through your deck all day and just have a load of junk enchantments that don't really do much. Just banishing light, everything on the battlefield, every single effect of that's been ever played, and no one will ever want to play with you again.
Yeah.
It's about you need to have some win cons in there, and you need to be able to understand actually how to get to them, making sure that you've got the right balance of cards that do something other than just Sithis' thing, so that you can actually start developing a board state to a point where you can win the game and not just play solitaire with yourself for half an hour, which is something that is annoying in Commander.
Yeah, I think that is definitely true for Sithis, and I think that is true for a lot of commanders, especially for someone starting out. Because I think even while Sithis is probably a big offender of this, I think most of our commanders probably fall under the same thing. I think it's less apparent with the pre-con commanders because they tend to have things built in already that kind of like, here's your win the game card. But something like Sithis and Marwyn as well, it doesn't tell you how to win the game, right? It just tells you, do a thing and I'll reward you. It's like, okay, well, I can do that, but then, yeah, like you said, James, how do you break the barrier to building a board state and transferring that into a game-winning board state?
I mean, with Marwyn gets big, so you can kind of punch. I suppose it's true. James raised a very good point. Sithis doesn't present that, and enchantments are very toolboxy. I mean, you can build. There's an enchantment that does almost anything, and so, like you say, James, you could just be like, right, well, I think that if my opponents don't have any stuff, then I won't lose, and that's kind of the same as winning, right? And so you just find every exile effect you can, and pack no win cons, and just be a horrible person, and no one will want to play with you because they'll be like, how are you going to win the game? You're like, I don't know. You better give up. If you give up, I win.
Exactly.
I win by you conceding.
Yeah, and that's traditionally a Civic win con, not a Selesnya one. So,
well, it's interesting you say that because it's more a Bant win con, isn't it? And that is the combination of Simic and Selesnya.
I tell you how to win with Sithis, right? Just play all the glitters.
That'll do it.
Let's move on. We've talked about new commanders for quite a bit, so that's pretty good. I think we could probably have an entire podcast just talking about things that new players should look out for. So maybe we can do that in the future.
One thing I learned, sorry, because we are moving on, but you just reminded me what I used. So one of my first decks was Reese the Redeemed, and I play him turn 1, and turn 2 I'd swing at someone with a 1/1, because I thought I'd come from playing standard, and I thought, you've got to like get people's life down as quick as possible. And I was taken out first more times than not because I was that person who drew first blood. So there's another tip for you first-time players: don't swing first.
Nice, good tip.
Unless you're playing Wiley.
In which case you have to,
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, let's move on to our next topic, which is kind of our pet cards that we'd like to play in our decks, even if they don't necessarily synergize very well. They're just cards that we feel like we just like playing. Also, I think it'd be fun just to talk about our first memorable card that you guys can remember. Something that maybe you pulled from a pack and you're just like, oh my god, this card is amazing. I must play it now.
Viktor, is yours a 7/7 for 7?
No, it's not actually.
6/6 for 6.
6/6 for 6. No, it's not.
Can it get better?
I mean, you know what? It actually helps me get to that. I guess I'll start since you've already started me off, Ed. So I have a couple of pet cards, I guess, but one of the cards that when I saw it, I was just like, yes, I love this card. It's like everything that I like to do in Magic. And it is Garruk, Cursed Huntsman, which is a Golgari Planeswalker from Eldraine, Throne of Eldraine. He, so what is he? So he's 6 mana Planeswalker, comes in with 5 loyalty. So he's 3 abilities. His first ability costs 0 to activate, and you create 2 black and green wolves that are also 2/2s. And when they die, they put a loyalty counter on your Garruk. Actually, on each Garruk you control. So if you have more Garruks, you get even more counters. He's -3. It's destroy a creature, draw a card. Pretty good. And then his final one, his ultimate, as you would, is -6. You get an emblem with creatures you control, get +3/+3, and have trample. So you guys know me as, you know, kind of what I like to play. Yeah. I am, I guess you would say, a Timmy. I'm a bit of a Timmy player. But I also
nothing wrong with that, Kiefer.
No, there's not. But I also like one of my favorite decks is Corvold. Jund Sacrifice. I like Sacrifice. I like that as a mechanic. And this card, when I saw it, it's just like, it's Timmy, but it's also Sacrifice. It's everything that I like to do in a Magic card. So anytime I'm building a deck, I'm always like, can I put Garruk in here? Because he makes the wolves that I can sacrifice. If I sacrifice the wolves, it gives him loyalty, which means then I can ultimate him very quickly to get an emblem that gives my creatures +3/+3 and trample, which I just think is great.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
good card.
It is a good card, but like at the same time,
what is it? 6 mana.
6
mana.
It's a lot. If you're a
Timmy player, you can't play it in Simic, Ed. So
yeah. I mean, you're in green. It's green black, right? So you're ramping into it anyway. So.
Yeah, but I mean, look, right. It is a good card. I'm not saying it's not a good card. 6 mana. So think about the modes you've got. You've got 6 mana, create 2 bodies.
Yeah.
That's a lot of mana for 2 bodies. And you've got 6 mana, destroy a creature, draw a card. That's a little bit better, but it's not amazing.
No, I mean, yeah, it's not great.
It leaves the body behind. It does leave.
It does protect itself. And it ults quickly.
Yeah, see, it protects itself, but then if you actually end up protecting it by blocking with the wolves die and he gets counters.
That's just a lot of mana.
It's a lot of mana, but that's why it's one of my pet cards. Because
I
could probably have something more efficient here, but I just love it, and the art is
isn't always fun. Efficiency isn't always fun. Exactly. I hear 6 mana, and I immediately think like, wow, this must be an absolute house. And I think Garruk is great. I don't know. 6 mana is.
It's great in my Karth deck because I can ultimate it right away.
Yes, your Karth deck is quite foul.
Yes, that Karth deck.
He beat us on turn 4 with a Vraska. He killed the whole table with 2 Vraskas on turn 4. Last time I played that Karth deck. Yeah, that was my face too, Maxwell. I was like, oh, here we go. Yeah. Sorry, right. James, I interrupted you.
So I was going to say from 6 mana down to 1, and I was going to come up with my pet card.
Yeah,
do it.
Which is Reconnaissance from Exodus.
Ooh, an
It is a 1 mana enchantment, which has the text, pay 0. Remove target attacking creature you control from combat and untap it.
I love that.
It's an incredible card. So, kind of 3 things about it that mean I just pretty much jam it into most decks in white. Firstly, if you're playing an enchantment deck, it's a 1 mana enchantment that does stuff. Pretty useful.
Good stuff.
Secondly, good stuff, yeah. Secondly, at its base level, you can swing stuff into combat. If somebody does something, play some combat tricks, whatever, you can pull your creatures out, you save them. You go a level above that, you're playing a commander that creates creatures that are tapped and attacking when it attacks. You're playing sort of Kalia, you're playing Adeline, you're playing any commander that just lobs something onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. That's kind of a little bit risky, because typically they'll block and can kill those creatures. If you need to, you can pull them out, untap them, and keep them on the board. The sneaky, secret, amazing extra mode, though, is the way combat works in Magic is that there is an end of combat step, which happens after damages has been dealt. So you can deal damage with all of your creatures, and then you can remove them all from combat after they've dealt damage, effectively giving your entire board vigilance as well for 0 cost. It's just a brilliant card. It seems very, very innocuous on the battlefield, but in the right deck, it does so much, and it's just great fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you get your attack triggers as well. If you've got something like Wyleth, for example, that relies on attacking, if you want to get your attacking trigger to draw your cards, but everyone's got Death Touch blockers, you can use Reconnaissance to do that. It's so versatile, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's the cheapest. It's never going to get cheaper than that. I agree with you. I think it's an absolute banger.
I think as well it's good. It's good because, like you said, it's innocuous on the battlefield, right? When someone has a Beast Within or a Generous Gift and they're looking at something to kill, chances are they're not going to waste a card on that enchantment because it doesn't do anything unless you activate it. So I think it's good at protecting itself because it seems unimportant.
Well, it is it just sits in that weird zone where it's very potent. But is that really going to be the most threatening thing to your game plan on the board?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably not. And you have to invest a lot of resources because you're unlikely to have a 1 mana spell. You might kill it incidentally with like a Bane of Progress or something, but you're going to have to invest like a card and 3 mana to Beast Within that. That's pretty shit trade. I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, good pick.
Excellent.
Yeah, I've never thought about Reconnaissance no, I've used it in one deck, to be fair, but I never thought about the ways that you've just described it there, James. So when I rebuild Kalia, I'm putting Reconnaissance straight into there. Watch out, everyone.
And I think every time you do something horrible with that, which will be every game because Carlo is horrible, you should specifically reference James. You should say,
I'm going to get an altar and put James's face on Reconnaissance.
Get it signed by him as well or something.
You know what? I'll send you the signed photo tomorrow.
Hey.
All right, Max, what's your card?
Yeah, I mean, I bought 2, and I'm sorry because I couldn't decide between the 2 of them. If you've played a game of Magic against me and I've been playing a deck that contains blue, you would have seen this card. It's Diplomatic Immunity. It is a 1 and a blue. It's an enchantment. It's an aura. It's from Mercadian Masks. It was only a common back then. It's still dead cheap to buy. And it reads, enchanted creature can't be the target of spells or abilities, and Diplomatic Immunity itself can't be the target of spells or abilities. So you're given a creature shroud, and the thing that's given the creature shroud has shroud as well. So if you've got a deck that's in blue that's heavily reliant on the commander, which is like any deck that contains blue, let's use go back to AC. You want AC on the battlefield. You want I've got a Brewback mill. You want to keep your commander there. And the only way people can remove it after that is by doing a board wipe. You can't target the creature. You can't target the enchantment. I'd argue it's better than Greaves, but also maybe not. Like Greaves it's 2, it gives it haste, you can move it around. But I think it's better than Greaves because you can pick these up for like 5p each.
You can
and
destroy
put it on
Greaves as well.
something.
I think Greaves is overplayed.
Yeah, you can target the Greaves, and
Yeah, I
it
think
is
Greaves is
also.
overplayed. So,
Yeah, but if it comes in a precon, then it's going to be something that I guess people.
I just
pick
think it's
up on.
overplayed. It just slams in a lot of decks where the only real payoff is the thing it's attached to has Shroud and like.
I like
Yeah,
diplomatic immunity though, because I think it's. I played against maybe it was UMax, but I think I've seen it a few times, and yeah, as soon as that comes out onto a creature, you're just like, well, I can't do anything now. There's no way I can deal with this creature unless I draw into a board wipe. But then a lot of times it's like if there's not enough things on the battlefield, if like that's the only creature, you're like, I'm not going to waste a board wipe on this one creature.
Or if you're ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a really good protection piece, especially when you're playing blue in the color that people are going to want to cause you pain. It's a good pick.
Yeah, you shove it on a Lair, you shove it on any blue commander that doesn't want to target itself. You're laughing. I'd love to see the deck where somebody does non-bow it horrifically and tries, has something where they're trying to target their own commander, and it's like, no, you just shrouded up everything.
Have you done
I've done it. I've done it funnily as with Marwyn as well. I put Eladamri into my Marwyn deck and didn't realise that I couldn't target Marwyn anymore because Eladamri gave it shrouds. But yeah, these things happen. But my other card, which is was one that I have just bought 4 Japanese foils of because I went onto Card Market and wanted some foils, but didn't want to spend postage on different ones. So I found 4 in the same place, and it's Broken Bonds from Dominaria, which is 1 and a green. It's a sorcery. It reads: destroy target artifact or enchantment. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So it's great spot removal in Commander because artifacts and enchantments are key, and it half pays for itself because you get to put a land. Doesn't stipulate tapping either. So if you're playing a landfall deck like AC, you can use it as a removal piece and get your landfall trigger.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I like it. I think my only thing is its sorcery speed, right, which obviously limits it to a certain extent, but you're getting great value off it, and it's a versatile enough card that you don't mind having it. I guess the only in Commander there's always going to be an artifact on the battlefield on turn 2 as long as you're not going first that you can knock out if you need to. There's going to be a Signet, there's going to be a Soul Ring, there's going to be a Greaves, there's going to be something lying around that you can knock out. You can even go into Reconnaissance with it if you want to get that land out. So yeah, I think it's a good call.
Yeah, nice. Ed.
Yes.
What's your card?
My card. Well, my card is a relatively modern card. It is Kodama of the East Tree. It is a 6/6 for 6 with reach.
Oh yeah, 6/6 for 6. You say
6/6 for 6, mate. So I know I've already sold.
Is that a green card as well? Is it?
It is. Yeah, it's 4 and 2 green.
You Timmy. Who's a Timmy?
So it's a 6/6 for 6, and it has reach. It also has a rather degenerate ability, which reads: whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana value from your hand onto the battlefield. So I like this card because, it's extremely powerful. But the reason why I picked it as my pet card is because, as I mentioned earlier on, when I bought the AC Precon, I had no idea what I was doing, and I went on to EDH Rec and I just bought a bunch of the best cards, like top combo, whatever bullshit cards they were. Took out a few cards based on, I think, the Command Zone budget upgrade. It was one of the suite of budget upgrade videos. I took out the cards they suggested for the reasons they suggested. It seemed to make sense to me, and I slammed Kodama in there. I also slammed Maloka with the Clouded Mirror. Now, for those of you who are educated in the franchise, you will know that this is a famous combo. I didn't know that. So I was playing my AC deck, having a good time, and I had them both on the board. And I looked at it, and I thought, hang on. I can tap this land, and bounce it back to my hand. Then this token comes in, and I can put this land back onto the battlefield. And I felt really good, because I'd just done something, and it hadn't cost me anything. It was awesome. And then I turned to the guy next to me and I went, Josh, I can do that again, can't I? He was like, yes, you can. I was like, I can do this forever. And he was like, yes, you can. And I discovered my first infinite combo. And now, of course, that's not a real discovery, because the reason it was on EDH Rec is because everybody fucking knows that that's a combo. But I didn't know that, and I felt really smart, and it was a great moment for me when I was like, wow, this is awesome. I'm going to win next turn. And then I think someone board wiped. But that wasn't important. So I created infinite 1/1s. But of course, Kodama of the East Tree is used just, if you're not using it for that, it's used to create a horrendous amount of value. Because you're effectively not just doubling your kind of mana, because it's equal or lesser, so you can kind of get double mana value out of your investment in whatever you're playing. But you can also use it to break rules like 1 land per turn, because you can put additional lands on the back. You know, a land is a permanent, it comes on the battlefield, you put another land on. A token, you can put a land on. You can play some random permanent that costs 3 mana and slam a land down. It enables you to just accelerate out of the gates at such a disgusting speed. And if you're playing something like AC with landfall triggers, then you can regas your hand, and you get so much value out of Kodama. I think if you're playing a deck with less card draw, you're going to struggle to actually keep enough gas in your hand to power the Kodama. That's how strong it is, that it will gas you out faster than you can draw cards. Unless you're playing AC, in which case you go for it.
Or, I mean, the other bit of the card you failed to mention is it's got partner on it as well, right? So
also
you can,
yes.
So you can just whack it in the command zone with some other degenerate card draw. Yeah,
like Sakashima. And then you can have 2 Kodamas. If you have 2 Kodamas.
Good God.
When you play a land, this one triggers, you put a land on, the other one triggers, you put a land on, you just go until you run out.
Or you could play something that's not blue. Not Simic.
Why would I do that?
You could do that.
Why would I do that?
One could.
I don't understand.
Whether Edward could.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
It is possible to.
Is it?
Is there more colours than green and blue?
I don't think there are. That sounds like some bullshit. But yes, you can.
Like...
I've seen Kodama, like Kodama Rograk.
Yeah.
I've seen that around.
Yeah.
It's just a value engine in any deck you put it in, and if you slam it down, you use the trigger, or even if you don't use the trigger, you'll have gotten so much value out by the time you run out of stuff that you'll be well ahead of the competition. It's just an incredible card.
Yeah. And a 6 mana 6/6 with reaches is nothing to shake your nose at either.
Indeed.
Good stuff. Green, good stuff. Green, good stuff again.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. Let's. So we have pet cards, but we also have memorable card. Which is, I just thought more for myself. I just thought it would be interesting to know, like, your guys' first experience. What's something that was like, wow, this is super cool. I'm really inexperienced, but this seems like a really cool thing. Because I know what mine is, and it's. I still do play the card to this day, but not very much. But every time I see the card, it always just gives me that kind of like. It just brings me back to like when I like that first. The first thing I bought was a M19 bundle. And I had no idea what it was. My wife was just basically like, let's just buy this because I used to play it when I was a kid and you might enjoy it. And so we got it, and I opened the packs and I got this card, and it was foil as well. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I was so enamored by it. But to this day, I always see it and I'm always just like, it's just such a cool card. But I'm sure people...
Just tell us what it is.
You're on the tip of your tongue. Tip of your seat. It's Leonin War Leader, which is a 4 mana 4/4. It's a cat soldier. It says, whenever Leonin War Leader attacks, create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking. So it's a pretty cool card. It's a good card, especially in a cat deck. I know Max has a cat deck. I guarantee you it's in that deck. But when I pulled this card...
I mean, my white weenie.
Yeah, I pulled this card. It was in foil. My first foil I ever pulled. And I was just like, this card is sick. And yeah, to this day, whenever I see that card, it just always brings back those memories. Plus, the art is just really cool. I think that's something that won me over as well. It's just, that's just one card for me that brings back the feels.
Nice, man. Mine was I started playing kind of around Shadows of Innistrad, turning into Kaladesh, and I remember going into so I live in Manchester, and there's a great LGS here called Fanboy 3. And I went in there with my mate, and we just played tabletop with each other. So he was like, "Oh, if you win tonight, I'll buy you a couple of packs." So we did that, and then we got the packs in store, and I was like, "Oh, this art's on this one, so you can have this one." So it was nearly Sahili Rai, was nearly my first mythic, and I felt like an absolute arse for going, "Oh, I don't want whatever the front was." I think it was like the Angel of Inventions. I don't want this one. You can have that one, just based off the pack art. But then a few weeks later, karma kind of served me well, because I went into a LGS in Leicester, picked up a single pack of Kaladesh, and walked down the road and opened it. And I'm going through. Feels a bit funny at the back. I'm going through, and I get a Torrential Gearhulk, which at the time was like, it was a money card. It was a big card. And then I turn over the next one, and it's a Masterpiece, Solemn Simulacrum.
Wow.
Which was amazing, but at the time I didn't realise how amazing this was. I thought, I'm only ever going to play Standards, or I'm only going to be like, what's Solemn, blah, 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 blah. I ended up buy listing it to a UK retailer for, I think it was like £40. Because to me at the time, I was like, oh, I can just buy more cards with it. So I nearly had what they called Masterpiece. I nearly had a Masterpiece Solemn, but in my infancy of playing Magic, didn't realise its true worth and buy listed it to buy some rubbish standard jank that's worth nothing now.
My story is quite similar, actually. So I've been playing for a very long time, since 4th edition. So obviously, back in the day, no one actually knew which cards were good and which cards were bad. And I remember opening up a pack of Alliances, and the first card in the pack is the uncommon in a pack of Alliances, in case you ever open one. They're like £1 billion now. And it was Force of Will. And looked at it and thought, this is a 5-mana counter spell. It's complete trash. And, it went into the junk pile, long forgotten, didn't really think of it. At the time, there were counter spells that you could play in Magic that were cheaper, didn't require you as a cost of, paying life at that age, I thought was just a terrible thing. And losing a card as well, I just thought was a completely terrible deal for the effect, when I could just play blue counterspell. But why would I want to do anything else? Obviously, I'm since seen the error of my ways. I do still have that Force of Will. Luckily, I didn't actually get rid of it. I managed to pick it up from my parents' house when I went to visit them, and I went through like my pile of old cards, and it was just sat there along with some rather older little beauties. But yeah, the ability to kind of not really understand how good some cards are. I think people do it all the time with fetch lands. I think kind of free spells, it happens quite a lot. And yeah, the same thing was happening with Lion's Eye Diamonds when I originally played. They were basically just complete junk. Chuck them in the bin. They were that useless.
I kind of felt
that's why they're so expensive these days, because everyone chucked them in the bin when they opened them.
It is funny. I was kind of the same way, like not with incredibly expensive cards, but I feel like when I started, you get a precon deck and it comes with like a Beast Within. It's just like standard kind of removal. Like back when I started, I always thought like, this is terrible. Like I don't want this. I want more creatures in my deck. And I always just chuck out these cards. And yeah, it was only until I kind of got what's the word, engrossed.
Good.
Yeah. And I was like just going through my chaff, like my bulk, and I was just like, there's like 6 Beast Withins, and I was like, why aren't these in my decks? And it's funny, like just not realizing that something is as good as it is when you kind of first start out. It's funny.
Yeah, sometimes removing someone else's stuff is better than having another thing of your own.
100%. What about yourself, Ed? What's your memorable card?
I actually had originally said, because we did discuss this briefly before I had originally said a Scalding Tarn. Not because Scalding Tarn is a particularly memorable card, but because when I started playing again in the summer last year, I was going through my old cards and I found one and I was like, wow, this card's worth money. And it's from original Zendikar, and I have no idea why I have it. I don't remember buying a pack of Zendikar, which I must have done because that's the only possible way I would have got one. I mean, that was back in like 2009 when I was 17. I don't remember. I had no involvement in Magic the Gathering to my recollection when I was 16, 17. So fuck knows why I have that, but I do. And I actually thought it was one of the original cards that I'd bought when I first started playing Magic the Gathering, which now I check the dates, and they don't match up. So I don't know. So I have decided to change my answer, and I'm going to say that my pet card is Sun-Touched Mir. I bet you've never seen that card.
No. That.
Nope, no, and you never will, because it's a fucking terrible card. It's a 4-mana artifact creature. It's a Mir, but it has a mechanic that is quite dear to my heart, because it was one of the first ones I ever experienced. And it has a mechanic called Sunburst, which is only used once, I believe, in 5th Dawn. Basically, it comes into play with a +1/+1 counter on it for each colour of mana that was used to pay its cost. And that's not a great mechanic, but the reason I loved it was because when I started playing Magic the Gathering when I was 12, I started with a friend of mine whose father played, and we used to play with his cards, his dad's decks. And none of them, I don't think, were any good. They were just like, whatever, just janky crap. And he was always telling me, like, you can't have a 5-colour deck. 2 is the maximum, and any more than that just isn't going to work. So I bought this precon. It's a Sunburst precon. It came with these Sun-Touched Mirrors, and I absolutely annihilated him. Absolutely fucked this guy with this precon, because of course it was new cards and they were all like relatively pushed, whereas he was playing with older stuff, and I just annihilated him with my stupid 5-colour deck. Fuck you, Stuart. No, I don't really mean that. I mean, I haven't spoken to the guy in years. We were kids. So
childhood friend's father, if by any chance you're watching me.
I got him. And then somehow I played with Annihilator, and I remember him just crying tears of rage because Annihilator was broken as hell, and he was playing older cards. And how'd you deal with Annihilator? You can't really.
Was broken as hell?
Still is. Still stupid. You're like, yeah, now you have to sacrifice 5 things, including lands. What do? Just lose, I guess.
Just cry.
Yeah. It's indestructible. He didn't know how to deal with indestructible either, because that was pushed as hell back in the day.
Yeah.
You're like, what do you mean it's indestructible? It's indestructible. You can't kill it. You can't die. And of course, you're kids as well, so it's like the whole like progenitors thing, isn't it? It's protection from everything, and people are like, can't kill it. It's protection from everything. Can't board wipe it. It's protection from everything. That's not quite how that rule works.
Yeah,
but when you're kids and there's no internet, not really. I mean, like, how do you look that stuff up? So that's why. Sun-Touched Mir, because it reminds me of my childhood. And then I stopped playing Magic for like 15 years.
Nice.
That's a sun-touching story.
After you demonstrated your complete dominance of the game.
Yeah, retire.
Listen, when you're that good, how do you go further? Sunburst is peak Magic the Gathering.
Nice. Cool.
You quit for 12 years and then start playing Simic.
Yeah, I went into rehab and then I just started right back on the heroin again, didn't I? Shooting it straight to my eyeballs. I've never taken heroin, as you can clearly tell.
You'll need to cut that bit, Kiefer.
Cut out the heroin, yeah. So, James has had to pop off. He's got a young baby that needs looking after. So, we're going to move on to the final topic or kind of part of the podcast, which is our card design challenge, which is going to be super fun and probably going to be a recurring thing we're going to do on each podcast, because I just think it's fun. I think it's fun to take commander characters from outside and give them a commander card.
This is the Kiefer gets sued portion of
yes, we're going to infringe on many copyrights.
And
it's going to be great. Ed works in a bank, so he's going to help you out with all the legal shit. So,
because that's how that works. That's how that works.
All right. So what characters did you guys think of? I think I know Max's one, but
Yeah, I find it really hard to think about third-party IPs because of the what's it called now? The bridge between worlds or something like.
Universes Beyond.
Universes Beyond. So really, if someone had said this question to me 2 years ago, I'd be like, "Oh, let's do Lord of the Rings." But in a year's time, we're going to have Lord of the Rings.
We're going to get it.
I do really enjoy watching cartoons, so I was thinking about Adventure Time and Steven Universe and how you can kind of like translate those things. But then earlier in the Discord chat, we got on to SpongeBob SquarePants and because there's a meme of all the different guilds as SpongeBob scenes, and so we started speaking about SpongeBob and who the different characters and what colours they'd be. But I think that's maybe like too many people for one episode. We could do a whole podcast on designing a SpongeBob set.
The whole SpongeBob set.
I literally had the thought of maybe Batman because that's new and current. Like what colours would Batman be? But I don't know. Like what were you guys thinking?
Yeah, do you have one in mind, Ed?
I don't. I've got to be honest because I'm a Civic player, so I'm fundamentally quite simple, and I had enough to think about trying to come up with the other two topics. So. Yeah, I was prepared to give an opinion on whatever we came up with. Batman is very topical.
We can do Batman.
I'm ruminating on Batman. No, Kiefer, what did you come with? What did you come to the table?
I didn't come with anything because I want you guys to bring the selection.
Well, Batman's quite topical.
It is.
So is what about? Have you seen the Uncharted film?
I haven't seen the film. I played the games.
Okay,
but I haven't seen the film.
Because that's also topical. The film is not amazing. It's fine. Don't go in there thinking you're going to get like.
Yeah, it's a game based on a video. It's a film based on a video game. So yeah, I didn't have high hopes to begin with, but
it's limited. But it's good fun. It's good fun.
Yeah, I've never played the game or watched the film, but
okay, well then possibly we don't do that.
Yeah, let's we'll do Batman, but I think people would like Batman. Let's get ourselves an image
so obviously he's Simic.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do this correctly. Let's go from the start. Let's find an image. Let's find a picture that works for Batman. Okay, so this Batman image looks pretty good. Let me just grab it. Apologies to the artist. I am not stealing your work. We're just using this as mere reference.
It's educational material.
Exactly. Okay, so let's bring it into Illustrator. Okay, it's very large.
Yeah, I saw that one and thought that could be a good fit. It's almost New Capenna.
I was thinking that. Yeah, it's quite New Capenna.
So will we go with this Batman image?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, let's just get into the...
What would... Because most legendary creatures have something after their name. So, what is he? Is he Batman?
He's a bat vigilante. A human bat vigilante.
Or you call him the Batman?
The Batman? Yeah, the Batman works. Let's just crop him here a bit.
Batman...
Oh, I thought you meant creature type, sorry.
Vigilant Protector?
He's a vigilant bat human. He's a bat human vigilante.
Okay, so what are we going to do for the name? Is it going to be the Batman or Batman, something?
I don't know. Batman, something, because when you think about
Protector of Gotham,
Batman Protect. Oh, that is sick. Wizards. Is he going to do Universes Beyond? Ed said it first.
Is it Gotham? AM?
Yeah. AM.
Cool.
He's got to have a cheap mana cost.
Yeah. Okay, what's his color? What's his color identity?
Probably Simic.
Black is definitely
really
there.
Think it's Simic. He's definitely got to be black. It's black something,
not
just black.
He's Dimir.
I think Esper. Because... So, like you, Ed, I went black. And then I think, hang on, no, black's too evil because he's good. So what about Dimir because of how he does things? And then I thought, no, sorry. I only started thinking about the good thing after thinking of Dimir. And I think Esper covers it well because it's like Azorius with black. And Azorius are the marshals of Ravnica.
Yeah, you got white for law and order. You've got blue for the sneaky crap and black for the kind of
The darkness.
I'm Batman.
the punchy stuff,
Okay.
He wouldn't speak like that if there wasn't black in his colours.
Yeah, I mean, and he solves problems by using violence, which is not the way of the
All right.
piece.
Let's go Esper. So, can you guys remember the ordering of Esper?
It depends.
Isn't
Some
it
cards have
white,
it
blue,
written
black?
in different orders.
Some cards have it in different orders. Yeah.
It depends. So the way that the 3 colours work is that it's the numbers 1 and 2, and numbers 2 and 3 are the 2 guilds that have combined to give that. So there are, like in Jeskai, some things aren't technically Jeskai. There's Zedru, I think it is, isn't technically Jeskai because it's not that order. It doesn't have like one core colour in the middle. It has a different one, but it is that colour identity.
Yeah, because
So
Esper.
what is he mostly? What should we put in the middle? Like, I'd say, what's he?
White, blue, black, wouldn't it?
Would you say he's
'Cause
more
you're
blue than
combining-
black or
you're
more black than
combining
blue?
Azorius and Dimir. So white,
Yeah, but is he
blue,
more? Is he more Azori? Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it.
Sweet.
Or maybe do it. No, because that is it's blue's the main the
black.
colour
Yeah, blue's
that
the
shares.
tie. Blue is what ties them together.
Okay. So that's his color identity. Let me get the correct frame. We can fix the mana
Yeah,
if the
he's
mana.
he's definitely a Gruul commander, a Gruul legendary creature.
So he's legendary creature. His subtype is human, bat.
Vigilante.
Is there a vigilante in Magic already? Is there a vigilante
He's the first one.
creature type? He's the first.
He's the first one. He is the vigilante tribal commander.
Vigilante's not going to fit in the very small space that I have.
That's why God gave us smaller.
Maybe like
decks, so-
bat human.
But I mean, he is just a human, right? Do you know what?
He's a human. He's a human bat. Come on. No, he's not a ninja.
He is.
He's definitely not a ninja. He's not a ninja, man.
He is. He
ninja.
studied like ninjutsu in like. The
This
other
is
ones.
how people get cancelled, mate. Just don't be controversial about this, please. Come on.
No ninja, really? No ninja.
He's not, but he's objectively not a ninja.
He's kind of ninja-y though.
Ninja-y is not the same as being a ninja.
Yeah, but I mean, he's also not a bat. He
He's definitely a bat.
He dresses like a bat, but he's not an actual
Modern
bat.
creature type could be superhero.
He identifies as a bat.
Okay, we'll do
His
human
pronoun
bat.
is literally bat. His pronoun is literally Batman.
Human bat. Okay, yeah, happy. He's
I'm
now
happy,
a bat.
yes.
Okay. What's his power toughness?
Is he literally just Esper? Or is he going to have any generic?
We can add some generics. It depends what
not
his
have
rule
a bit
texts are.
Yeah, I mean, I think because you can do it in two ways. You can either be constrained to, like, if we say he's 5 CMC, and then we work up towards that, or we design him and then choose a CMC afterwards. So
Well, we have to look at
I
it.
think if we do it,
We have to look at it as if we're Watsy, right? It's Batman, right? He's a huge name, so we have to really push the card because we want people
Right.
to buy
So he's a 21-21
it. Yeah, one shot.
with commando ninjutsu.
You said he wasn't a ninja.
It doesn't matter. He can still have ninjutsu. Blightsteel
nuts,
Colossus isn't a ninja, but it has ninjutsu now.
Okay, I think he definitely needs to be a beefy boy. I think
5/5.
I think he needs to have more toughness than power
5'7".
because he is
Right,
unbeatable.
yeah. 5/7's a good idea.
Yeah, right. 5'7".
Okay, now
what
the
does he
fun
do?
bit. So he has to have
Rules
vigilance.
text.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% of
And
vigilance. And I wouldn't say flying because he doesn't technically fly.
He's menacing.
Me.
I think
He
he has
is.
fear.
He has fear.
Oh
yes.
yeah, definitely has
Or
fear.
does he have shadow?
Oh, that's a good one. Or horsemanship.
What about batmanship?
Batmanship. Or you can do him partner with and have him with partner with Robin.
I don't
That
know.
opens
About
up
Or
the
Catwoman.
catfish.
Or Catwoman?
Catwoman. So
Is it Jeeves? What's his...
Jeeves?
Alfred.
Yeah. Sorry. Not a big Batman
Maybe
fan
he can
here.
make a token called Alfred.
I was going to say, I think we should have him create a token called Alfred. A legendary token.
No, I mean, if anything, he should make something. He should make a Batarang.
Well, I mean,
kind of like the way Togo makes rocks.
That would just be pinging for one. I mean, it's like a bit meh.
It could be,
Yeah, the Batarangs.
It could be an equipment that you tap to unattach. It does damage to somebody, then it reattaches to him.
Or play on the utility belt and have
he should have an enabler stapled to a payoff, because we just spent an hour discussing about how that's a bad thing. But as you say, there's a big name that needs to be pushed, so we need to think of an enabler, a synergy, to just staple straight to Batman.
Okay, but first of all, is he going to have Vigilance, Menace, Fear, Shadow? Does he have all four of those things?
I think we choose Vigilance and then one of the other three.
Yeah, I agree.
Which ones?
I think Shadow, just looking at it as a keyword, Shadow is probably the best one.
Makes more sense.
Not that it's the best, what it does the best thing to describe him, but he's a flipping man of the shadows.
And he can block Dorothy Voidwalker, which is important.
Protection from Jokers.
Yeah, I like
that's
it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I like it. So, what does he do? He probably investigates.
Yes. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Okay.
Right,
So is this an activated ability or a triggered ability?
I'm not sure. I'm just thinking of what he does. So he investigates.
I think he needs to activate, because I think he needs to, because he would decide to go and investigate something.
Okay, I agree.
So
he investigates.
Is it triggered or activated?
Activated. I think it's activated.
So you activate the investigation, and I think that because whenever I watch Batman film, his investigations always result in someone getting hurt, that there should be an activated ability to get a payoff from the investigation.
Whenever you sacrifice a clue,
exactly, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
This.
That's
okay,
exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah,
how about whenever he attacks, you make a clue token? Oh no, whenever he attacks, he investigates.
Yes.
I don't think that's pushed enough.
But then he can have an ability that says sacrifice a clue, do something else.
Additional combat step.
Sacrifice a clue, get an additional combat step.
Sacrifice a clue, get an additional combat step.
Whenever.
Exile target permanent, draw a card, gain a life, and have an additional combat step.
Sounds pretty.
Very similar.
That does make him go. That does make him go infinite the first time he attacks.
So whenever he attacks, investigate. Maybe investigate 2.
I've got one. Whenever during each, at the beginning of combat on your turn, create. I don't know how we'd word it, but basically my thought is that Batman's everywhere. So like when combat happens, you play in a multiplayer format, Batman hits everyone.
Okay.
Or Batman can only attack the player with the highest life, or Batman can only attack the player with the most permanence, or...
yeah, because he's trying to make everybody equal or something? I don't know.
Yeah, what is the ethos behind him?
He never kills anyone, right? At least in some of the universes.
Is he
he's a vigilante.
Does he have an alternative win con then?
That's just the Simic.
Unmask.
Does he have an alternative win con?
He could do. I mean, it's quite interesting here because it says, I think we could do something cool here where we could make him venture into the dungeon as if he's venturing into Gotham City. And also part of him is that he leaves the people that, well, like, I'm just looking here at like Wiki and other kind of like quick things, is that it says parts of a lot of the stories within the Batman universe is that he finds someone by them leaving behind cryptic clues.
Okay, so whenever Batman, Protector of Gotham, attacks, investigate, sacrifice a clue, venture into the dungeon.
Nice. Whenever you complete a dungeon, exile target permanent, and a player can exile target permanent the player with the highest life controls, or something like that. But also, I've just thought here, there's already an Esper Dungeons commander.
There is, yeah, Sephiroth, yeah.
Why would you play Batman over Sephiroth?
maybe we make... No, because we have to make a dungeon. Then we make a dungeon called Gotham.
So Batman famously defends people that are close to him, right? So what about if it was, instead of when he attacks, investigate? What about if it was some sort of investigation whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls?
Yeah, that's cool.
And maybe you create X clue tokens where X is the mana value of that spell.
I like that.
Okay, say that again.
So whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls.
Oh my god, so many words.
Becomes. I'm a Simic player. We like words.
You control becomes
the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls. Investigate X times. Where X is the mana cost, or whatever they call it now, of that spell.
Mana value.
Where
X is the mana value of that spell, or 1, because it needs to be something if it's an ability, right?
X can't be 1, or X can't be 0?
X can't be less than 1. I don't know. That's probably worded incorrectly, but
whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, investigate X times, where X is the mana value of that spell.
X plus 1. X plus 1 times.
That's so awkward.
It just solves the problem, right? I think it's actually X, where X is 1 plus the mana value of that spell.
Whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, investigate X times, where X is the mana value of that spell or the mana cost of that ability.
Yeah, if you just penalty as well.
Yeah, because then it's always going to be at least 1.
Yeah.
Then what about if you could sacrifice your clue tokens to draw a card for free?
I mean, it's thematical with the new player commanders.
Sacrifice a clue, draw a card, or sacrifice a clue, draw 2 cards.
Yeah, because then you're making the clues better, aren't you?
Much better, because instead of costing mana, they just sack.
Draw a card. I think
maybe draw a card.
Make it 2,
and just to give the white a little bit of something here.
And gain 1 life. Yeah, like that.
So whenever a permanent you control, whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, investigate X times, where X is the mana value of that spell plus 1. So the only thing about this, though, is that it's heavily reliant on somebody targeting something that you control. If nobody targets anything that you have, he does nothing.
Well, that's Batman. You don't touch Gotham, and Batman don't touch you.
That is true.
Take out an opponent controls.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because then it's broken as fuck.
Yeah, because then you can do it yourself.
Broken.
The only thing that doesn't make sense here now, though, is that if it's a target of a spell or ability, where X is the mana value of that spell, so it needs to, like, an ability wouldn't have a mana value.
Well, maybe if we're doing it as just spells, we get rid of the ability part, because now it's things that you target. You need to, like, pull back on it a bit. So I think not like abilities. Yeah, just do spells.
Okay, this seems so broken. So you target Batman with anything, you make at the least 1 clue.
Yeah.
And then you can sacrifice a clue to draw a card.
Every single targeting spell becomes a cantrip.
Yeah. As long as it targets Batman. Or a permanent you control, not
Anything,
Batman.
mate. Anything.
I feel like he needs one more thing.
I think he needs one more thing. I think he needs something black.
Yeah.
Because that's very blue and very white. I think it needs something black.
Whenever you sacrifice a clue token, create a 1/1 bat.
That's thematic, but is that black?
I like that. Give them death touch.
Or what about whenever he deals combat damage, make
Good
that
player,
many bats,
create that many.
and the bats, and then whenever the bats die, each player loses a life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do whatever.
Okay, we might not be able to fit this on, but I can lower it. I can scale down the thing. Whenever Batman Gotham deals combat. Okay, let me just scale this text down a bit. Where's my text?
It was funny at the time, but do we need protection from jokers?
I mean, it's kind of funny. Oh, no, do you know what you could do?
Nice. Because they're cowards.
Yeah.
There are cowards.
And if we expand the set, you can just make all the baddies cowards. The penguin, human coward.
Yeah.
Human penguin coward.
Human coward, yeah, human penguin coward.
Human
Penguin,
coward,
human
penguin.
coward. Penguin coward.
Like equipment jellyfish.
Equipment jellyfish?
Yeah, you've not seen the equipment jellyfish. The reality chip. The creature type is equipment jellyfish.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
No
Look it up.
way.
Look it up. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous and amazing.
So, how do we word this? So, whenever you deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 or black
Yep,
1/1, 1/1 black or black 1/1.
Yeah.
Black 1/1.
Oh,
No, 1/1 black.
1/1 black bat creature tokens with
with
flying. Or
And
When-
then
with flying.
no, isn't
you
it
need to put it in
1/1 black-
parentheses.
isn't it 1/1 flying black creature tokens?
Create that many 1/1 black bat creature tokens with flying. I think that's right.
Whenever you cast an Alilo reads, whenever you cast an artifact or enchantment spell, create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with flying.
Okay.
And
whenever
in quotation marks. It's got to be in quotation marks.
This isn't. I said that, but I rescinded
Is
it.
it
I
not?
don't know if you can see it. No.
I can't see it. I'll
it's
take
not
your
in
word for it.
quotations. Okay. And whenever
Whenever this
creature dies,
each opponent loses a life.
each opponent
Sacrifices a permanent.
Sacrifices a black permanent.
A permanent. Sacrifices a fucking land.
Okay.
Or a
Anything
permanent with no
anything
colour
else?
identity.
Yeah.
Let's mark him as
I think
number 1.
that's pretty cool.
Do you
It's
think he
pretty
should
cool.
only cost 3 mana?
No, I think you should cost
No. 7.
7.
7 is also fine. He's quite pushed.
He does a lot.
Yeah.
Let's do.
Like I was thinking 6.
Yeah, I
and
was thinking 6
6
as
is
well.
AC. And this does a lot more than AC.
A lot more than AC. Do 7. 7 is good.
Okay, I'll just need
And
to
do we
scale
double
this
up
down.
any of the colours, or do we just do it as 4 generic?
I think just 4 generics good enough. There we go.
Do we want to put any flavor text on him or anything?
I'm Batman. That's the flavor text.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. That's it.
Do they need these things
That's
as well? And it needs to
Yeah,
be,
this part's italicized.
yeah.
There you go. It's done.
All right.
Telework, lads.
This is Batman, Protector of Gotham. He's a 7 mana Esper commander. He's a 5/7 legendary creature, human bat. He's got Vigilance and Shadow, Protection from Cowards. Whenever a permanent you control becomes a target of a spell, investigate X times, where X is the mana value of that spell plus 1. Sacrifice a clue, draw a card, and gain 1 life. And whenever Batman, Protector of Gotham, deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 black bat creature tokens with flying, and whenever this creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life. I'm Batman.
I love it.
Excellent. Amazing. Alright, that is our first commander designed and our first podcast finished. Thanks for listening, guys. And yeah, if you liked the podcast, if you liked us chatting absolute nonsense, then hit the subscribe button, give us a like, and check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks to the guys for chatting and helping us create this Batman. And we'll catch you in the next one. See you guys.
Thank you.
Peace.